up, YouTube? We finally done it. We have officially reached 100 subscriber mark. I know it's funny, everybody else is 100,000 subscribers, but hey, to me it's important. It's something that I've started as just a little side hobby, and you know, it's amazing when you find out there are many of you guys out there that are also interested in driving and cars and Shelby that I drive and what I have to say. And I thank you guys for tuning in and leaving me nice comments, and that always helps. And also give me thumbs up and subscribing. I'm gonna, whenever I get some break and whenever I have some free time, I like to make videos. I also like to edit videos. It kind of helps me focus into something other than what I do as work and what I have to do as a father of a 19-month-old. So but yeah, thank you guys, and I really appreciate it. And as I've made promises, because we have reached 100 subscribers, I do want to give away my brand new rear sway bar for stock GT350. Now I still don't know if it fits Mustang GTs or EcoBoost or V6. As I have a hunch they may, because all S550 platforms share very similar suspension structure, but don't take my word for it. But hey, it's free. So well, I mean, right now there was only one person that left the comment that wanted it, and since he was the first one to comment, he gets the first tips. And your name is Charles Agans. And Charles, I left you my email address that you can contact me with underneath your comment. So please visit that and send me an email, send me your contact information so we can meet up and I can give you well, your brand new sway bar. Now if Charles falls away and he doesn't want it or whatnot, then I will let you guys know. And again, just leave me a comment down below. But otherwise, today I wanted to make another little video going home. Maybe this, I'll call it a commuter video. Preparing yourself for track driving. What to do, what to expect, especially if you've never been to one. I know a lot of guys are fearful of going to track, especially big tracks, for first time. They might fear that it's unsafe, or they might fear that as a guy, nobody wants to look like a newbie in front of a whole bunch of other guys. I think that's pretty big. I see that in quite often, guys who are obviously first-timers that try to hide that they're first-timers, and it's all sorts of stuff happen at the track. But maybe I can give you guys some pointers and tips. You can at least look somewhat half decent and don't make fool of yourself out there. But hey, making fool of yourself is also part of learning process, so don't be afraid. I encourage anybody that it doesn't matter what kind of car you have, as long as it's prepared to take a track driving. It doesn't have to be a sports car. I've seen guys with all sorts of cars, wagons, Volvo wagons, I mean, stuff like that, driving out there, even regular 528 BMW. I mean, you just got to make sure things are ready. Your car's not gonna just break down on you or spill oils or whatnot. So, but it is great experience to be able to control your car at the limits and learn, so that way, even when you're daily driving, if something happens, you already know the limits of your car, you're able to handle your car much better. So I mean, to make things easy, maybe I can share with you guys what happened during my experiences of how I got into tracking my older cars. cars that I used to have. It started with me having a Mitsubishi Evo 9. It was a black one. It was an SE. I still regret to this day selling that car, but it was one of my first actual sports car that I learned a lot on. And I literally started off going to canyon driving. I guess it originated from when I was much younger, watching an animation called Initial D. And I'm sure a lot of you guys seen it or have heard about it. And like any other kid in their, teens, it got me pumped up about, well, driving at the canyon. And in Southern California, we have great canyon roads out there. From that point on, I would go maybe every weekend. I started with my Civic LX. It was 5-speed. That was my very first car. And when I got an Evo, I did the same thing, but it almost left me wanting more. I always felt a little too dangerous going to canyons. I always wanted to go to a racetrack, but back then I just didn't have any finances or I didn't have any idea where to go, and I couldn't afford buying more sets of tires or whatnot if I were to run out of them or wear them out. So I avoided it for a long while until right near where I went to school. I found out there's a place called, come on guy, let me get it. All right, man, those Chevy Cruises don't want to let you in. But yeah, I found out there's this little place in Riverside called Adams Motorsports Park, and it's a go-kart track that they open up to public. They used to do this almost once every week. Now it's almost once every other week, but they would have a night open up from 6 to 8 or 9, 6 to 9, I believe. It would be a time attack night, and then there would be a drifting night. During the time attack night, they open it up to pretty much any cars out there that you want to bring, and it's $20 for 1 hour. And you have to pay another $5 at the entrance fee. So it's $25 as long as you bring your helmet. You get to drive about 3 to 4 sessions depending on the day on a small go-kart track with a bunch of tight turns. And the one lap would usually last anywhere between 45 seconds to 55 seconds depending on how quick you are. And that was the next place where I went. And here's the thing, for those of you guys who are planning on going to big tracks, I highly suggest you going to a local autocross events at least 3 to 4 times before you go to big track. Autocross is a fantastic way to learn in the very beginning, just because you're always on your first and second gear. Even if you mess up, your mess ups aren't going to be too dangerous. And also, it's a fantastic way to learn throttle response and how to control your throttle and braking, because there's a lot of tight turns. You have to do a lot of heavy braking, and also coming out of corners you have to do a lot of throttle modulation. Also something I will recommend is use tires that don't give you so much grip. Cheaper tires that's going to last you a while. And the reason why that helps you a lot is it gives you a way to learn patience going into the turn. But the very first thing you're going to notice when you go, especially if you've never been to those type of things, as a man, most guys tend to in their mind, they want to go fast, they want to go quick, they don't want to look slow. And a lot of guys don't brake enough, they don't slow down enough before entering corners. And again, this is my personal experience where, you know, I would hear all these tires squealing, and, you know, I'm thinking, man, I'm going so fast, you know, I'm making all this quick, you know, counter steer corrections. Oh my gosh, I must be doing a you know, crazy job at it. And I come out of it and I look at my times, and literally my first session there with my Evo 9, my time was, I believe it was something like 54 seconds. And again, I didn't know I was going slow. In my mind, I was going really, really fast. And again, after that day, I came out, looked at my times, and, you know, it was all over the place, 52, 54 seconds, around there. And, you know, it really caught me by surprise. I always thought I was a good driver. You know, obviously, like any other guys, right? You know, every guy thinks they're best drivers in the world, right? You know, from all those canyon drivings, you know, I thought I had it down, you know, the heel toe and all of that, and guess what? I didn't know what I was doing at all. So what I did next was I kind of looked into some of the better drivers. I got some ride-alongs and some pointers and tips here and there, and very first thing I found out is driving line, meaning hitting all the apexes and learning where the braking zones are. You know, and just by doing those two things properly, you know, I was able to shave off 4 or 5 seconds off my lap time very quickly, probably within I say it was maybe my third visit there, and I went from 53 4 seconds down to about 47-second lap. And again, that's quite a bit of difference, especially in small tracks like that. So again, tip number 1: go to local small autocross events or autocross tracks nearby you. Learn how your car behaves at lower speeds. Learn how to drive slow. Okay, that's big. Make sure you know at what point your car is going to understeer or oversteer into the corner or out of the corner. Learn how to modulate your throttles instead of mashing your gas all the time and breaking loose, thinking you're doing all the work. You know, again, smoother the driving, faster you're going to be in 99% of the cases, especially for novice drivers like us. So once you went to a couple autocross tracks, you know, you got your confidence down, and you know, the good way to tell is, you know, you start to see more things around you when you're going 9/10 or 10/10. In the beginning, I guarantee you, all you're gonna see is your RPM gauge and what the heck's happening right in front of you. There's no time to look in the mirrors. You have no idea absolutely what's going on. At least that was for me when I first went, or second time. You know, the flag guys in the corners, I don't know what they're waving. I'm not looking at them. You know, it's just my hands are sweating, my heart is pumping. You know, you gotta kind of get over that stage. Now, once you're a little bit more confident and comfortable, you're hitting those apexes, and, you know, you're catching your car, and you know, you're driving smooth, well in those autocross events. Now you're ready to go to big track. Now, there are a couple things you want to check before you go, and these are very, very, very important, even for those autocross, because depending on how hard you drive during autocross, things can go wrong. Again, biggest thing that tends to go wrong is the brakes. What people fail to do, especially guys that have cars like M3s or whatnot, bone stock, you know, they think their car's made for pure motorsports, and it's out of the box, ready to go to track. It's absolutely not true. And that was for me the case too. When I had my Evo, I would again go to those autocross events. After about third session one day, you know, and I was feeling confident. I was braking very, very hard into these zones. I was full braking, and on all of a sudden it was fairly decent speed, and my brake pedal just dropped to the floor like there was nothing down there, and I wasn't getting any brake pressure. I had to somehow pump the brakes real quick, and I got some of those braking back, and I quickly kind of retired into the parking lot, and that really got me scared, because again, when your brakes fail on you like that, you have absolutely no idea, unless you felt something like that happen to you. It is one scary ass feeling, and it ended up actually being my brake fluids that were boiling. What happens is, every time you apply a lot of pressure into your brake pedal system, again, within contained space, higher the pressure, you can actually start boiling the fluids. And when the brake fluid starts to boil, there again, with all the boiling, it generates all the bubbles, and you cannot add pressure into your brake pads that it needs, the calipers. So your brake pedal just drops through the floor. And what will solve the problem? Well, brake fluids. Most cars out there, unless your car is pretty much built race car, or you know, like a Porsche, I know they do pretty well, but I mean, unless your car is very, very high-end sports car, most cars do not come with proper brake fluids. GT350, this car actually does come with good fluids. The way you know is, you can look at the brake fluid level. There's levels called DOT levels. There's DOT 3, DOT 4, DOT 5, and higher the number goes, generally speaking, the fluids are more resistant to boiling. They do have higher boiling points, and I would highly recommend at least going with Motul RBF 600s. I believe they're DOT 4s. You know, anything above DOT 4 tends to do just fine. I know there are a couple other good brake fluids out there. I mean, really, they all do pretty much good job. You know, people swear by this brand or that brand, but you know, again, just look up some proper brake fluids made for high performance, and make sure you switch that over. You flush your old fluids, put the new ones in, and then you're ready to go. Now, while you're at it, when you change the fluids, you also do want to change brake pads. Most brake pads do not endure high heat, especially if it lasts a long time. If you're going to big tracks where your brake temperature is going to really shoot high for long periods of time, if you don't have proper brake pads, they could literally break off in chunks, or crack, or shatter, or just disintegrate completely, and you won't have any idea until your pads run out, and all of a sudden, again, same thing, you push in your pedal, nothing's happening. You don't want that. If I have to choose two things that I have to do before I go to track that are most important, are those two things: pads and fluids. Get the ones that you need according to your driver level and type of track driving you're going to be doing, how often you're going to be doing. So we checked brake pads, brake fluids, and the third would be tires. Again, like I mentioned, during your autocross sessions, it's not as important what kind of tire you have. You're not going to overheat your tires that quickly. Most general summer tires will handle the duty. However, if you start going to big tracks, those tires will not be able to handle that type of load and heat, and you get an effect of what we call, the chunking. You literally see these chunks of threads just coming out of the tires and just ripping off, and literally you destroy your tire so quickly if something like that happens. Again, you want to have proper tires for track duties. If you really want to put down some good lap times, I highly suggest the newer generation 200 thread wear tires, like the RE71R. That's a really good tire. the Kumo RS3s, I know those are good. The new RS4s are not that great. I've seen some guys that it wasn't handling the high heat so well. But yeah, I mean, you can research yourself. A lot of those tires do just fine. A good place to visit are kind of car forums and their tracks, you know, subsections where people talk about their tires and how they felt, how did it do. Those are good places to visit, but again, try to find one that works well for you. And some tires work better on lighter cars versus heavier cars, stuff like that. So you do want to look into that. Another big mistake I see a lot of guys make at the track, where you know they get these tires with very soft sidewalls and they think, oh man, these tires are rolling too much, I must put more pressure, it must be too low on pressure, and they start just pumping in more pressure. I mean, I've seen guys that pump in 40 psi plus to their tires just to make the sidewall stronger, or at least that's what they want, or that's what they say, and then they complain that, you know, the tire's getting greasy and, you know, it's losing grip so quickly. It's simply because you've overinflated your tires. Most performance tires don't like to be above, you know, 35-36 psi hot, and you know, if you're into the 200 thread tires or R compounds, you know, you want to be really around 32 psi running hot, and you know, that's where they like to be. So yeah, so again, brake pads, brake fluids, and tires. The next is just general fluids. Make sure obviously nothing's leaking. You want to make sure you have enough coolants. Make sure it's above that minimal level, and make sure you check your air filter. Just common stuff, guys. Again, make sure it's not too dirty or clogged up, and obviously check your oil. Believe it or not, some people don't check their oil levels before and after their track sessions. And you know, when you push your car hard, sometimes your motor can burn oil, or you might not have enough oil from the get-go, you know, and you just didn't know because you had someone else do your oil change and they didn't put enough, stuff like that. So make sure your oil is ready to go. Probably the best thing to do is to do an oil change before you go, so you have a fresh oil in there. If your car's a lot older, your transmission oil has been already, you know, regularly maintained. That's one thing I see people not do too often. They're doing all these regular engine oil changes, but they kind of neglect the transmission oil, and that should be done as well. So now all your fluids are set, you checked your tire pressure, you have proper tires, brake fluid, brake pads, obviously things like a torque wrench to be able to torque down your lug nuts to proper torque specs, and you do want to double check your lug nuts after each session. Sometimes those lug nuts can expand, especially if you drive hard, and it could start to come loose, and you do want to have those lug nuts nice and tight. So that's another thing you can have. Always bring your tire temperature gauge, even though your car might have onboard tire pressure reading. A lot of times they're not super accurate. And yeah, that probably sums up what you really need for, you know, kind of light track duty. You know, I mean, I'm not talking, you know, competition level, but you know, just kind of enjoying yourself at one of those, you know, time attack events. You know, that really should get you by.